Join Daryl McCants and Yvette Walker each Tuesday at 4 p.m. on ABC News Radio, KMET, and Internet KMET TV for the Southern California Business Report. The show highlights successful businesses and individuals behind them. Daryl and Yvette interview the incredible people managing these enterprises that range from awe-inspiring sole proprietors to world-renowned organizations. The Southern California Business Report, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. on KMET AM, FM, and Internet KMET TV.
Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them, with Daryl McCants and Yvette Walker. And now, here's Daryl and Yvette.
Thank you for joining the Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks KMET with Yvette Walker and myself, Daryl McCants. We are live, blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, Inland Empire, Orange County, and the greater Los Angeles area to our west, the Desert Empire to our east, all the way to Arizona, Riverside, Temecula Valley, all the way to San Diego to our south, and our beautiful mountain communities, Upper Desert, all the way to State Line, Nevada. Get us crystal clear live worldwide by going to the Google Play or Apple App Store and downloading the free KMET smartphone app today. We focus each week on successful businesses in Southern California and the people behind them, serving a local population of nearly 25 million in all 10 counties in Southern California, from San Diego all the way to San Luis Obispo. Today's show focuses on the business and secrets of Southern California's child care. And I can't really say too much more because I don't want to steal the thunder from Yvette Walker, but I'm going to give everybody a clue. What we're going to talk about is a group, and their value statement is that if children feel safe, they can take risk, ask questions, make mistakes, learn to trust, share their feelings, and grow. So this is going to be a really amazing interview today. Before we begin, a special thank you to our team at the station, Mitch, Bill, and Sean at the station, and our amazing advisory group from UC Irvine School of Business, Bill Morris, Jay Kaplan, catch his show every Friday at 3 p.m., Camilla Rubio, Diana Cavallo, and James Carvin. Special thanks to last week's guest, John M. Pacheco, Judge, Superior Court of California, San Bernardino County. They were recently honored with the #1 court system in California for community outreach. At the end of today's show, Yvette Walker will talk more about how to download and watch that interview. If you didn't hear it, it's a must. You want to hear it. As customary, Yvette Walker will introduce this week's special guest. Yvette, the microphone's all yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Daryl. And thank you to everyone who's listening today. It is an absolute honor for me to introduce today Jessica Muñoz. She is the Executive Director of Voices for Children's Riverside County Court-Appointed Special Advocate Program, also known as CASA. CASAs are community volunteers who are appointed by judges to advocate for children who are involved in the child welfare or foster care system. Jessica is an attorney and practiced for over 7 years, including 4 years as a trial attorney in juvenile dependency courts in both Los Angeles and San Diego counties. Prior to joining Voices for Children, Jessica developed and coordinated a program at UC San Diego to provide support services to students who are undocumented. In addition to her law degree, she holds a Master of Forensic Science degree and a professional certificate in nonprofit management. Jessica is past chair of the County of San Diego Juvenile Justice Commission and served on the board of the San Diego Civic Youth Ballet. Her professional affiliations include the State Bar of California, the Riverside County Bar Association, Leadership Riverside, and the Fieldstone Leadership Network. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jessica.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow. Now we're going to put you on the spot. And by the way, real exciting because Yvette Walker and I, we believe that Southern California is now one area with lots of little neighborhoods where people wake up in one county, go to work in another county, go visit a friend in another county, stop by and visit a family member on the way home in another county. And the fact that you have so much knowledge on San Diego and the Inland Empire, and we're going to let you talk more about that here in a moment, but it's kind of a bonus because the whole San Diego coming on into the Inland Empire and your perspective, I think everybody's going to be really getting a kick out of it. And as you talk about best practices, and we'll be unwrapping some secrets here in a minute. But before we do, as customary, let's go back into your personal background so people can have a little better understanding of how you got here. Because we know that right now you're the executive director for Voices for Children, and Yvette, just wow, what a resume. What a resume. But before we get to from here forward, let's go back. How is it that you got on this track to get to where we're at right now? Let's spend a minute. Let's not gloss over that. So take us back. If you want to share anything embarrassing with the listening audience, that's okay too, or not. But take us back and have a little fun with it. Let us know about your journey a little bit. And Yvette usually will ask, and I'm going to kind of take some of the thunder away, but for young people that say, you know what, I heard Jessica Muñoz today with Voices for Children, and this is something that this might be something good for me. I always think of young people that are in high school, and everybody asks these high school kids, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? They're anything like me. Who knows? That's a big question for somebody. But for a young person that is listening today, people of all ages are listening. But for somebody young that's listening to it or hears it later, take us back so they can kind of understand, because this would be a great opportunity for a lot of people. I can just, I get a feeling that's where we're going with this interview. So take us back into your past and let us know how you got here.
Well, thank you, Daryl. So I feel very fortunate that when I went to law school, I had a clear idea that I wanted to help people. I know that sounds a little bit cheesy, but that's true. And I had a particular idea that my passion was children and families. What I didn't understand prior to going to law school was just how many ways there are to support children and youth and young adults and families with a legal education. And I feel really grateful that along my journey, I've had opportunities to do that in ways that are pretty traditional. So I've had roles where I was going to court every day and trying cases, and less traditional, including some of the work that I do right now. It was really when I was in that more traditional role as a child welfare attorney representing children and parents that I came to appreciate the very vital work that CASAs, court-appointed special advocates, do in the context of the child welfare system. And so to your point, Daryl, about Southern California blossoming into a large community with lots of different neighborhoods, I think in some ways my story illustrates that. So a lot of people are surprised to learn that when children are removed from their homes due to abuse or neglect, a legal process begins, and a judge is assigned to make all of the decisions about what will happen next with the child and the family. And in California and many states, children and parents are assigned attorneys to represent them when that happens. And that was the type of work that I did. And in San Diego, I represented both children and parents, and I was really fortunate as an attorney to have CASA volunteers, court-appointed special advocate volunteers, assigned to many of the children whom I represented. And Voices for Children actually is also the court-appointed special advocate program for San Diego County as well. So I was quite literally working with volunteers from Voices for Children in that capacity. And I became so grateful and so appreciative for the unique perspective as well as insight that they were able to provide me as an attorney about my clients. Because since court-appointed special advocates or CASA volunteers only serve one child at a time, they had much greater opportunity to get to know that child in a really holistic way than I did as their attorney, whom I only see them a couple times a year, every few months. And so fast forward, when Voices for Children had an opportunity to expand into Riverside County and needed someone to be a part of leading that effort, it was really an easy thing to say yes and to relocate to the Inland Empire because I wanted kids in Riverside County to have what I was so appreciative that kids in San Diego County had, which is a great CASA program.
That is Amazing. And quite frankly, prior to having met you and learning about Voices for Children, this is something that is completely new and foreign to me, but also it is not lost on me how critical of an effort this is. And that's why I'm so thankful that you're here to talk about this and share it with our audience, because I can only imagine the challenges that these children are going through at the time and how critical these CASA volunteers must be during this time in their life. Can you talk a little bit about, to our listeners and our viewers, what makes the perfect CASA prospect? If I want to become a CASA, what are the things that I need to consider to move forward and, try to participate in this very critical effort that you're undergoing?
I love that question, Yvette, because really the answer is anyone with a heart for kids and the ability and the flexibility in their life to make about an 18-month commitment, we need as a CASA volunteer. The truth is that our CASAs are diverse and come from lots of different backgrounds and all walks of life. Most of them don't have a legal background or a child welfare background before they join us, but they do have that passion and that willingness to be a caring, consistent adult in the life of the child, and we'll teach them the rest. All of our CASAs participate in a pre-service training curriculum. We also provide ongoing education for our CASAs. And one of the things that I think really makes our program run very well is that every single one of our CASA volunteers is assigned to a paid professional member of our staff, so an employee at Voices for Children, all of whom have expertise in areas related to child welfare. And that advocacy supervisor really becomes the CASA volunteer's right hand throughout the course of their advocacy. So they always have someone that they can share ideas with, that they can brainstorm with, that they can vent to, that they can celebrate with. There's really always someone there to help them and to guide them as they work to support the child.
Wow, wonderful. So can you walk us through the process? Assuming I'm coming in and I want to say, hello, Jessica, my name's Yvette Walker. I want to be a CASA. What is the process? What is the timeline? What is the level of commitment that we're looking at as we pursue this effort?
So the very first thing to do for someone in Riverside County, for example, would be to attend one of our information sessions. Someone can learn about our information sessions by visiting our website at speakupnow.org. The information session is about 60 minutes. Right now, they're all being held virtually, and it's really an opportunity for the prospective volunteer to learn about what the expectations of the role are. And I like to think it's also an opportunity for prospective volunteers to know what their expectations should be of us in terms of the level of support that we provide to volunteers as they go through the process. The second step is to complete an application. And based on that application, we'll invite prospective applicants for an interview. And that's a chance for prospective volunteers to get to know us and get to know them. And if volunteers or prospective volunteers complete the interview successfully, then we'll invite them to join our pre-service training program, which is called Advocate University. That's about a 35-hour course, half of which is self-paced at home online, and the other half we're conducting virtually, as you can imagine, but is real time. So they have a chance to interact with our team members as well as other prospective volunteers.
Beautiful. And can you give us an idea of who your landscape of CASA volunteers currently looks like? Are they, working families? Are they families that have already had children and they're all gone and off to college and maybe they still want to participate and engage and support children in their community? Can you give us a little idea of what that looks like?
Yes, and yes. So, lots of different people with lots of different circumstances in their personal lives make the time and commitment to become a CASA volunteer. The largest group probably is our empty nesters. So those who are not retired, most are still working full time, but maybe their children are grown and so they find themselves with a little extra bandwidth to support another child who would really benefit from their advocacy and their caring consistency. That's not to say that that's true of all of our volunteers, though. We have lots of young professionals who might be a few years into their career, who want to be involved in their community, who see giving back to a child in this way as a way for them to do that. And then, of course, we have everyone in between. We have working professionals with families of their own who feel really called to serve in this way, and they make wonderful CASA volunteers too.
For those that just tuned in, we are here with Jessica Muñoz, Executive Director with Voices for Children. And she is explaining to Yvette Walker and myself exactly what CASA is, which is a court-appointed special advocate. These are individuals that the court names and authorizes to help the process of really making sure that these children and you're going to explain here in a minute. I'm going to throw a question at you because you're going to love this one. I want you to just take a step back and tell the audience what Voices for Children, how big the scope is, and the overall organization, and then kind of bring it on down. Let's talk about the organization for a little bit. Feel free to go in the past and how it got to where it's at today, just to kind of bring that into the conversation.
So Voices for Children is the court-appointed special advocate, or CASA program, for both San Diego and Riverside counties. We've been proud to serve as the CASA program for San Diego County since 1980, and in 2015, we expanded into Riverside County, which is the program that I'm privileged to lead. So in Riverside County, over the past 6 years, we have grown every year in terms of the number of children that we serve over the course of the year. So to give you a frame of reference for the trajectory of our growth, our first year we served 140 children with CASA volunteers, and this last year we served 467 children.
Oh my, wow.
Thank you. So we're really proud of that growth. But there are 4,000 children who spend time in foster care in Riverside County each year. And so it's not the case in Riverside County that every child has a CASA. So our long-term ambitious goal is to be able to provide CASA volunteers for any child who would benefit. And we're proud of the programmatically sustainable and responsible steps that we've taken to that goal. And I'm excited to share with you something I haven't had a chance to share with very many people, which is that here in the next couple months, we'll match our 1,000th child since Voices for Children became the court-appointed special advocate, or CASA program, for Riverside County.
You know how we feel about secrets. So let me see if I understand this. This is outstanding. So is the 1,000 mark, is that Riverside County alone?
That's Riverside County alone.
Wow.
San Diego County has served tens of thousands of children over their 40 years. They just celebrated their 40th anniversary, and they serve 1,500 or more children with a CASA volunteer every year. So we're inspired by that example, and we want Riverside County to have that same level of service.
Great.
That's amazing.
And now, do you have other organizations? I'm sorry, Yvette. Do you have other organizations and other chapters in other parts of the state or the country?
So CASA, or court-appointed special advocates, are a nationwide model, and each jurisdiction throughout the country that wants to have a CASA program will typically form an agreement. The court and a nonprofit organization will form an agreement so that a nonprofit organization can serve the community in this way. It just happens that Voices for Children is the court-appointed special advocate, or the nonprofit program, that has that unique agreement with both San Diego and Riverside counties. But all of the counties in Southern California have a nonprofit organization who serves in this way in their community. So if somebody who's listening is not from San Diego or Riverside County, for example, they can visit our state association website, which is californiacasa.org, californiacasa.org.
And that's where they can find information for their local CASA program if they choose to serve their local community. But my understanding is volunteers are not restricted by where it is that they live. They can serve in any county. For instance, if they work in Riverside County and live in Los Angeles County, they can serve in Riverside County if it's, convenient for them or if it makes sense for them. So is that something that you can talk about in terms of how CASA volunteers can serve according to their geographic location as well?
Sure. So, for example, at Voices for Children in our Riverside County program, if someone contacted us who lived in a neighboring county, but perhaps work in Riverside County, and so it made more sense for their life to volunteer in Riverside County, we probably let them know that they have a local program in their neighborhood. But if they had a particular reason for wanting to volunteer in Riverside County, that would be completely fine with us. And so people who are interested in volunteering in a particular location, I would encourage them to contact the program in that location first and learn more.
Now, Yvette Walker and I recently had Livestream on, a very successful blood bank provider in Southern California. And as you learn about it, as people are giving blood, for example, that can save up to 3 lives by one blood donation. By the way, this is a shout out for Livestream. And what was so interesting is as people give blood, they're getting a physical exam, they're getting blood work done. It's a very expensive, and all of a sudden you go, wow, when somebody gives blood, there's all these benefits that appear for the person that's in there volunteering to give blood, and it's saved lives. There's people who have gone in to give blood, and it's identified things that allowed them to early detection and could have been a life-changing experience for the person giving blood. So on that kind of a thought process, what have you been hearing from the volunteers that they didn't expect when they got involved in Voices for Children? And all of a sudden, when you volunteer in these really great organizations like yours, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be volunteering, helping somebody else. This has turned around to be a gigantic benefit for me. Talk to us about some of those success stories, because I'm sure you got a million of them.
I think there are lots of ways that people find their CASA volunteer experience rewarding. And each story is unique to each CASA and child pairing because, of course, each CASA and each child themselves are unique. So often we hear from our volunteers that they're getting more out of it, they worry, than their child. But I think that's really just a reflection of their commitment and their dedication and their passion. From the child's perspective, the benefit of having a CASA volunteer is having that caring, consistent adult, someone outside their home that they can contact, that they can reach whenever they have a worry or a concern, or even just want to share something great that happened at school that day. From the court's point of view, the benefit of having a CASA volunteer is having an adult who has that unique rapport with the child to whom they're assigned, but then who also has the platform through their appointment by the judge to be able to share in a written report what they observe and understand about the child's needs, and then also provide updates to the social worker assigned to the child and the attorney in real time about how the child's doing. And so I think what a lot of people discover over time is that there's those incremental milestones, those small things that maybe we took for granted in our own childhoods or in the childhoods of kids in our life that are important to us, that really make all the difference between our kids surviving and thriving. And so many times our CASAs tell us how impactful it is to be a part of making that possible for the child they're serving.
That comes as no surprise. I'm just, as you're describing this role, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed that people like you and your organization and the volunteers are making time to give that child another critical contact to make sure that their life is moving forward in a positive direction. It's so hard to be a kid. We can all reflect back to our childhoods, and it's a fragile time. It's a really fragile time. And I would imagine that the foster care parents love it, having one more person that they can collaborate with and celebrate the successes, and another voice really that can tell the court system, hey, this is working. We got a healthy, wonderful environment, and the child's thriving. That's it's what everybody wants to hear. That the kids are thriving and really knocking the ball right out of the stadium. Now, and we'll talk more about this because we're going to be coming up to a break here in a minute. So I got probably a bigger follow-up question. So I don't want to throw that at you now. Then all of a sudden we run out of time. So why don't we just do this before we go to the break? Because I got a doozy of a question for you when we get back from break. But for those individuals that are listening right now, that are saying, "Hey, I didn't know anything about this," as Yvette was saying, you got my ears are perking up. This, I've been looking to volunteer. I've looked at different things. It's really maybe not such a perfect fit for me, but my kids are doing great. I shared with you that my youngest is off at UC Santa Barbara right now with his fancy friends. The poor old dad is sitting back in an empty nest. So I'm thinking, hey, maybe this should be an opportunity for me to find some child that I can help. And the time I was allocating for my youngest son, who's replaced me with all of his new fancy friends up there at UC Santa Barbara, and I'm teasing. He's the greatest, but as time frees up and there's opportunities to volunteer, I went through the Yvette as well. Yvette's got 2 Eagle Scouts on their way, and a gold. A gold. So we got the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts, and so we know the volunteering and the huge impact it has on children. And so when we get back, we're gonna have you kind of go down into some of the details on this, and we're gonna have some fun with it. So look forward to that, and we will be right back after this short break.
Join our Promise Scholars Golf Tournament on Friday, September 17 at beautiful Los Serranos Golf and Country Club, benefiting and supporting students to increase college and career readiness for underserved children. We introduce kids to opportunities available after high school and ensure they get on the education pathway to achieve their goals. Visit promisescholars.org and sponsor, play, or both to support the children in our region.
Join Daryl McCanns and Yvette Walker each Tuesday at 4 p.m. on ABC News Radio, KMET, and Internet KMET TV for the Southern California Business Report. The show highlights successful businesses and individuals behind them. Daryl and Yvette interview the incredible people managing these enterprises that range from awe-inspiring sole proprietors to world-renowned organizations. The Southern California Business Report, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. on KMET AM, FM, and Internet KMET TV.
Ontario International Airport is on to a better way to fly with over 65 daily nonstop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today. The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu.
Being sued and don't know who to turn to? The insurance company won't defend you and your family in a lawsuit? Stress no more. Call the Walker Law Group. We are the law on your side. Just call 909-989-3200. 909-989-3200.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining the Southern California Business Report with Jessica Muñoz, Executive Director, Voices for Children, on ABC News and Talks KMET, the Southern California Business Report, with Yvette Walker and myself, Daryl McCants. right before we went to break, we were having a little fun talking about the successes for this wonderful organization, which is Voices for Children. And we also throw another term around, which is Casa. Casa is kind of the what they're doing. And they are managing court-appointed special advocates, CASA, C-A-S-A. And the institution is Voices for Children. And Jessica Muñoz is the executive director. I want to brag a little bit before we throw a question at her. They just hit in Riverside County the 1,000 children have had a special advocate, a court-appointed special advocate through Voices for Children. And they've been up and running there for just the last few years. In San Diego, they have 40 years of experience, and tens of thousands of children have had a court-appointed special advocate assigned to them through the hard work of Voices for Children. And Yvette, what else? Did I miss anything else? I'm blown over by those numbers.
Well, I think those are tremendous numbers, but I would love to hear Jessica talk about a recent recognition that they received for their CASA program. Can you please speak to that, Jessica? Because it's just exciting and it's wonderful when an organization such as yours that is doing tremendous critical work in our communities is recognized. So can you please talk about your recent recognition?
Sure. So Voices for Children was recently a participant in the Human Rights Campaign's All Children, All Families program. And through that program, child welfare agencies have an opportunity to engage with the Human Rights Campaign to really look at our policies and practices and make sure that when we're serving youth who identify as LGBTQ, or even engaging with volunteers and staff who identify as a member of that community, that we're doing it in the best possible way. And so our team engaged in about a year-long effort with the Human Rights Campaign to participate in training, to really look at all of our policies and procedures and practices. We had an opportunity to have great conversations and reflect and make some updates. And as a result, we learned that we received the highest level recognition, which is the innovator level, and that Voices for Children has been recognized this year by the Human Rights Campaign as an innovator.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Congratulations. And that is a secret, right, Daryl?
That's a secret. We won a lot of awards.
Yes.
The more awards, the better. And right before we went to break, we were talking about the what's in it for the volunteers, because they're taking time away from their families. There's lots of things that they can get involved in. And you were sharing that, and I could see it happening. I can see it happening where the volunteers are saying, wow, I'm starting to feel guilty. I feel like I'm getting more out of it than the child. I could see that happening, and you're really great organizations out there like Voices for Children. That's very, very common. Share with us on some professional points of view as these volunteers become, court-appointed special advocates, which is a really, really big deal. And every time they are connected, and you mentioned in the previous segment that it is a one-on-one, one special advocate, they're assigned to one child, and really they need to be prepared to sign up for about 18 months. That's a solid standard, and you provide training and give us some of the let's kind of dig a little deeper. Some of these volunteers have told you a year or two or three later, how did it impact them professionally? Because I can imagine as a hiring manager, if I see somebody that has this on their resume, for crying out loud, special advocate, court appointed, that's a wow to me. That's a very selfless thing for someone to do. That's a long commitment, a year and a half to say, you know what, I'm in it to see this child win it. And by the way, I'm going to selfishly read I just love it. You're trying to provide another opportunity. And here's what you guys say. If children feel safe, they can take risk, they can ask questions, they can make mistakes, they can learn to trust and share their feelings and grow. That tells the whole thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
You have another adult that's really trying to help these children have another point of contact, somebody else that's in it for them. And as you said, oftentimes these children are put into a foster care environment because there's already something traumatic, either a loss of life, someone's having very serious health issues within their family structure, and the court has made a decision to put this child in the care of professionals. And so share some more. I want to hear some more of this feedback you're getting from your volunteers. Don't hold back. Let's get the secrets. What other benefits have you heard?
I have to tell you, Daryl, most people come to this opportunity with a completely selfless attitude. Most people aren't necessarily looking to pad their resume. They aren't looking to dip their toes in a new professional arena. But we have had a handful of volunteers who, over the course of their work with Voices for Children and their service as a CASA, discover this passion and this whole way of serving their community that maybe they didn't know existed before. And so we have had a few who, after some time with us, have made changes professionally, who've gone back and gotten advanced degrees in social work, for example, or others who decide to really make this their life's mission. But it really just starts most of the time with someone who has a heart for kids, who wants to be able to work with one child or one sibling group at a time, who feels like that's something they can manage, who comes to Voices for Children, learns more about the opportunity to become a CASA, and goes through the process to become a volunteer.
Yeah, so you're an example. See, Yvette, she's giving us this selfless, but look, she got roped in. You got your law license. You can practice any area of the law, and you were involved with Voices for Children. And look what happened to you. You got pulled right in, and now you're having fun with the organization. And you're probably one of the better examples of what I was, going down that line of questions. Because I can see people that love working with children coming into this, and it just opens up a whole, point of view that they were, unaware of. Yvette and I both were just so excited to have you on today to learn more about this organization, because I knew absolutely this whole Voices for Children to me is a secret. I just did not know that this was something available that people can take advantage of, and as you said, many of the volunteers are saying, gosh, I feel guilty. I'm getting more out of it than the child. This is ridiculous. That's kind of like me going to Chuck E. Cheese. I'm the guy out there having all the fun, and, the kids are looking at me saying, hey, get the big guy off the playground. We got this is for kids, for crying out loud.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for talking about all the benefits that the volunteers have as a result of investing their time and efforts for these CASA program. Can you talk about some of the children, and you may have some more examples from your county in San Diego, given the fact that it's been going on for a lot longer, 40 years, as opposed to 6 years in Riverside County. Can you talk about some of those success stories that maybe some of those children that have been a part of the CASA program have come back and said, hey, thank you so much for this program. Because of this, X, Y, and Z. I can only imagine, the testimonials that you have as a result of these children that have, been able to be guided by these wonderful volunteers during a very difficult time in their lives. Can you please talk about, some of those stories with us today?
I'll share with you two of my favorites. One is a shorter term impact that a CASA made, and the second is a longer term impact that a CASA made in the life of the child they were serving. And in this first example, I think individuals who've served as CASA volunteers or people who've worked with CASA programs will hear this story and it will resonate, because even though when I share this story, I have a particular CASA and her girl in mind, I think it really reflects the experience that so many of our CASAs and kids have together. So we had a volunteer a couple years ago who was working with a teenage girl And she had been let down repeatedly by many adults in her life. And so it can be hard for adolescents to warm up to a new adult, but it can be particularly hard when kids have experienced trauma to warm up to an adult and develop that rapport. But her CASA was consistent and went to visit her regularly. She happened to be living in a group home situation. And so her CASA would go and visit her there. And one time the girl said to her CASA, I think it's really nice and all that you come see me, but I don't get it. Why do you come here and why do you spend time with me? And the CASA thought for a second and answered as honestly as she could. And she said, well, I choose to come see you. I want to spend my time this way. I want to spend it with you. And this young lady who had not been very emotional with her CASA up until this point became very teary, gave her CASA a hug. It was the first time that she had ever hugged her CASA. And she said to her CASA, no one's ever chosen me before. And so I think the secret sauce, if you will, in how our CASA volunteers serve kids is certainly they provide that caring, consistent adult presence that all kids, particularly kids who've experienced trauma, need. But now we have a person who's taken the time to develop that rapport with that child or that youth, who also has the platform to share information and observations with the judge and the social worker and the attorneys who are trying to make the very best decisions possible on behalf of these vulnerable kids. And so I think that's one way that we see success is when those relationships are nurtured, because when that happens, now the CASA can really be an impactful advocate no matter what happens at that point forward in the child's life. The second example is somewhat personal to me. So my sister-in-law works at a hospital in the Coachella Valley. And she knows what I do very well. And she happened to be chatting with someone that she works with one day. And the subject of volunteerism came up, and she shared a little bit about Voices for Children and what we do. And the woman she was speaking with nodded and took it in and didn't make a comment. And the next day, she came back to my sister-in-law with flowers from her garden and said, please take these to Jessica. I was in foster care many years ago. I had a CASA volunteer, and that's the only person I remember who cared about me.
Oh my gosh.
I can't tell you that this person had a CASA in Riverside County. I'm not even sure if this person grew up in California. But I think one of the things that makes our volunteers special and our model so impactful is that CASAs are planting seeds in the life of our kids that they may not be around to see bloom, but that effort and that intention and that care will hopefully make a difference, even if they don't get to see all the ways that it does.
For those that are just tuning in, we are here with Jessica Muñoz, the Executive Director, Voices for Children. And we're throwing this term around CASA. For those that just tuned in, CASA is Court-Appointed Special Advocate. And these CASAs, as they're called, are assigned to one child, and they are foster children. And Jessica is being very humble, but I will tell you that Voices for Children, it is the official entity that the Riverside County reaches out to. There's one, and it's Voices for Children, for the purposes of getting these court-appointed special advocates assigned to these foster care children to have another important adult monitoring and doing everything possible so that these children get that care that they need, and it's so impactful. And then also with San Diego, it's Voices for Children for San Diego County. They are the official entity that the court reaches out to provide these special people, and the court-appointed special advocates are volunteers, that's a big wow, for people to be signing up. And as you said, they're so selfless that they are just, they're not in it what's in it for them. They're not padding their resumes. They are really in it to see these kids get the care. And Yvette, what a beautiful question. Give us some examples of some success stories. That's what our format is. Opportunity, success, That's what it's all about. And that's what we're looking for each week. If you want to be in a good mood, listen to this program, because that's what we're focused on, opportunities. And so let's get moving on what's next. Tell us your ambitions for Voices for Children, Riverside County, as we look at the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years. And by the way, those that are listening right now, it's always frustrating when you're kind of interested in something and then you get we don't need you. We got plenty of people. We don't need you. Keep on walking. What's nice, I expect, I don't know, but I expect that we have a need for high quality court appointed special advocates. And we'll get the answer to that right now. Let's not even move on. Answer that question. Is there a need in Riverside County? Yvette set the stage as to what that person, the question was, what does that person look like? And you answered that magnificently. Tell us about the actual need, and then talk about where you're taking this in the next 1, 3, 5 years.
So there's absolutely a need. In Riverside County, on any given day, there's 35 to 50 children who are waiting for a CASA volunteer that we'd love to assign to one. If we had a member of the community who came and completed the training and was prepared to serve in that capacity. My dream and my vision for Voices for Children is that we'll continue to expand. And by expand, I literally mean increase the number of children that we have the capacity to serve each year, more and more and more over the coming years. So since our program's inception in 2015, we have served more children every year than we did the year before. And I want that trajectory of growth to continue. That requires two things. One, we need community members who will become court-appointed special advocates. Well, we do have a professional staff who trains and supports them. The direct service at Voices for Children is provided by our court-appointed special advocate volunteers. It's our volunteers that have the relationships with the children and provide the direct advocacy. So we can't serve kids without volunteers. The second thing that we need to make sure that we can continue to grow in a way that's responsible and sustainable is resources. And so it takes resources and funding to be able to have the tools to recruit and train and support CASA volunteers so that they can do the very best job they possibly can for the kids that they serve. And so in order to continue to expand our program, we also need to increase the number of resources available every year so that we can do that. I think it surprises people sometimes that because we work so closely with the court, there's an assumption that the expenses that we have are all covered by the court or local government. And while we're very grateful to receive a variety of government grants that we apply and compete for, the majority of our funding to make our program possible comes from private dollars. It comes from people, it comes from foundations, and it comes from corporations. And so if someone is listening today, the three best ways that they can help are to learn more about becoming a volunteer themselves, to share the need for volunteers with people they know, and if they're not able to do either of those things, to consider investing in the work that we do.
And all they have to do to get information about that is go to speakupnow.org. And that's speakupnow.org, and they will be pointed to those different opportunities, whether it's to actually volunteer, to become a CASA volunteer, how they can contribute to help support and fund this very critical program, and also stay on top of all the amazing things that you're doing and the wonderful success stories of those children that you're supporting through this program. Do you have any events, anything that is going on in the future that you would like to talk about and invite our viewers, our audience to participate in?
So as you can imagine, right now, so much of what we're doing is virtual. In Riverside County, the best way to get to know us better is to sign up for an information session. Even if the person isn't completely sure that this is the volunteer opportunity for them, but we've piqued their curiosity or their interest, we'd love for them to spend an hour with a member of our team learning more about all the work that Voices for Children does, and specifically how CASA volunteers help kids.
Very good. Thank
Before
you.
we run out of time, let's why don't you go deep into what that training looks like? That sounds exciting to me. What do you think, Yvette?
Yes.
Let's hear about that training. Let's peel that onion back a little bit. So somebody signs up today. They're a good fit. They're excited. You're excited. What does the time commitment look like, and the details of that?
So we want anyone who is able to make an 18-month commitment and thinks that they have about 10 to 15 hours a month to work on their case in some way to consider signing up for an information session and hopefully subsequently participating in training. Our training is called Advocate University. There's lots of details on our website. It's a 35-hour course that provides a foundation of what the child welfare system entails, what the CASA's role is, how they can help. Half of it is self-paced at home, so there's online modules that the volunteer can complete on their own time. And then the other half are virtual modules that happen in real time with other prospective volunteers and members of our team. And so it's really through the Advocate University pre-service curriculum that we work with volunteers to lay the foundation for what they need to know. And then after a volunteer is trained, they're assigned to a professional member of our staff who will be their advocacy supervisor and work with them throughout the duration of their case to really individually determine what other things that CASA needs to know to be able to serve successfully in the case that they're assigned.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so I'm guessing you also have an extensive vetting process for these CASA volunteers. Can you talk about, the additional vetting process that you do have for those that are curious? I'm guessing you conduct a background check to make sure these people are qualified and eligible to interface with children. Can you expand on that as well?
Yes. So as we hope people would assume and expect, there is a significant background check process for volunteers to complete, but we walk them through that process. Volunteers must be 21 years of age or older, and they do undergo fingerprinting as well as reference checks, and there's some other databases that we cross-reference as well to make sure that our volunteers are safe to be spending time with our kids.
Jessica Muñoz, Executive Director, Voices for Children. Yvette Walker and I are so excited that we had you on today. We're going to make what we call a repeat offender out of you. We're going to get you back here. And, we're so excited that you've taken on this critical role and that you have great, great ambitions for to serve these children. And, like I said, we expect to hear lots of great things. We're going to have you back. And unfortunately, we're getting to the end of the program. And for those people that have listened to Jessica, obviously, you're going to want to have other people listen to this interview. And Yvette is going to tell us how to do it. So Yvette, right. take it from there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Jessica. Thank you for joining us today, Jessica. Thank you so much. All right. For everyone that's listening and tuning in today, look for us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com, and don't forget to download the free live streaming app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. Check out our YouTube channel and download our interview with John M. Pacheco, Judge of the Superior Court of California, County of San Bernardino, who was admitted to the California Bar in 1984. John Pacheco began his legal practice at the law offices of Rose, Klein, and Marias. In 1994, he joined the law offices of Garza and Reyes, and in 1995, the law office of Garza, and Pacheco. In 2001, John was appointed to serve as a Superior Court judge in San Bernardino County. His assignments included criminal law in Joshua Tree and presiding judge in Rancho on an array of cases, from civil, traffic trials, preliminary hearings, family law, guardianship, unlawful detainer, civil harassment, and small claims. Since 2011, John has presided in the San Bernardino Civic District and conducted 2 civil jury trials, bench trials, preliminary hearings, and occasional criminal trials. Next week, we will feature Shannon Dykas, recently appointed Sheriff Coroner by the Board of Supervisors. He serves as a 36th Sheriff Coroner of San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Dykas was raised in a law enforcement family and has lived in San Bernardino County for over 40 years. In high school, he was a Sheriff's Explorer Scout. After graduating, he enlisted in the United States Army and was assigned to the 101st Airborne Division, where he served as a military police officer at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and in Sinai, Egypt. After his tour of service in the military, Sheriff Dykas worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs Police Department in Loma Linda, California. He was hired by the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department in 1991 and attended the Frank Bland Training Center 106th Basic Academy session. Everyone listening today, don't miss it. Thank you for joining us. See you next week.
This has been the Southern California Business Report with Daryl McCants and Yvette Walker on KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them. Log on to the show's website and remember to visit the podcast page.